We came across this product in Europe, and as soon as we saw it, we said, this is really fantastic. And it was an easy decision to try to get the licence for it and then manufacture it here in Australia.
Like most snacks, a big part of the appeal with popcorn is that it's quick and easy to eat. But producing it is not quite so simple. It actually takes an incredible amount of effort, technology, logistics and know-how. This facility opened in January and cost almost $7 million to set up, with the sole purpose of producing all Australian, pop-it-yourself popcorn.
We've got parts of this line that come from Denmark, Germany, Italy, the USA, China. So we've covered quite a bit of the engineering across the world.
Setting up a manufacturing business in Australia is no mean feat. The sector has been in sharp decline for decades. But the CEO of Scarecrow Foods, Mark Adamson, believes when you've got the right product, it's worth the gamble. And it all starts with the raw ingredient.
The primary part of this product is good quality popping corn. And this was always about the fact that we thought that the product was just so good that it was worthwhile going to the trouble of creating a manufacturing facility.
Matthew Barnes is growing popping corn in Emerald in central Queensland. In 2023, that's unusual.
There's no doubt cotton is the king of the castle when it comes to economics, but it's just back-to-back cotton's a bit hard. And we've planted some popcorn to try and get a rotation in and trying to get something that's got a gross margin that's similar to cotton, I suppose.
In the field, popping corn looks a lot like sweet corn.
It's probably a little bit softer, it grows a bit quicker. The plant's generally a lot smaller, so it's just not as showy, I suppose. Like all corn, it's got to be managed. Heat affects it massively.
This crop was planted in the spring and will be ready for harvest come December, but not before a full-on battle has been waged and hopefully won. The invasive pest fall armyworm, which has a serious sweet spot for corn, has caused havoc here for growers.
We've had some pheromone traps here for the whole crop, and the first lot of counts was off the scale. So we've had high pressure from day one.
Fall armyworm is one of the reasons growers in this area moved away from growing popcorn, including Matthew Barnes.
We've had fall armyworm in nearly every other crop, but they just don't seem to affect it. Sorghum, they get into it and they can make it untidy, but they don't do any economic loss. It is just so destructive of corn, and it's got a massive love for it.
5 years ago, despite being all geared up for growing corn, when the contracts weren't there and with the arrival of the invasive pest, it just didn't seem worthwhile. So much so that Matthew Barnes even sold all the machinery it required. Now he's back here with corn in the ground yet again.
Farming is a variable thing. You can never say this is what's going to happen, unfortunately, because that's just not how it works. Our hope here is to make something similar to cotton, if not better than cotton some years.
Right now, this is a trial crop. And to grow it, they've been following the latest advice from research led by both government and industry bodies.
We've sprayed fairly regularly for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the crop, just to try and get that early infestation out. It's probably made the difference between success and failure, I would say.
Growing it successfully is only half of the battle. They also have to make money at the end of it. Finding the balance between managing the pests and remaining profitable is a work in progress.
Some of the insecticides that work really well on it is incredibly expensive. Because this is just a trial area, we haven't done all the things we could have done to make it cheap. We sort of just wanted to prove the concept that we can grow corn again, and then we'll make management practices next year to reduce that cost per hectare.
From the farm, the popping corn is then sent to Bean Growers Australia in Kingaroy in Queensland's South Burnett. Here, the raw product, which comes from growers all over the state, is sorted and graded before being distributed. It arrives at the warehouse in Toowoomba in bulk bags.
We've got oil and flavouring that we're putting into a batch vat, and then we're filling these trays with popcorn, oil and flavour. We're sealing those through a tray sealer machine. Then we're erecting the pop box, gluing the bottom, putting the tray in, folding it down, and then putting a band around it before they're packing it off in units of 10 shelf-ready cartons.
What's left out of this product is almost as important as what's gone into it. This doesn't contain palm oil. And all of the ingredients used are able to be traced back through the supply chain. Almost all, bar some of the oil used, is produced in Australia. And then there's the packaging. The flat pack style cardboard box the popcorn is packed into is one of the main ways it differs to other microwave popcorns.
Virtually all of this product is recyclable except for an outer band, which we're working on to try to find a recycling solution for that as well.
15 staff are employed in this facility with a view to increasing that if and when required, although machines do a lot of the grunt work.
We set this manufacturing line up to be automated end-to-end, and we can produce tens of thousands in a day if needed.
So, Mark, this is a pretty weird-looking contraption. What is it doing?
This multi-head weigher is dispensing the exact grammage of popcorn into the trays that we want. If it can't find what it's looking for, it'll top up any light ones, and if it still can't find it, it will dump the whole 14 out, reweigh it and start again, all in a fraction of a second.
We often talk about supporting Australian farmers, but what most likely comes to mind when you hear that is buying meat or dairy, fruit or vegetables. But in the snack or convenience food category, there are also plenty of homegrown options. Places like this are proof of that.
There's no doubt that things like the cost of manufacturing in Australia has been something that everyone's looked at in isolation over the last 20 years, and a lot of things have been put offshore. But within markets, and I think particularly food manufacturing, I think Australia's still got an opportunity to do that, providing that the product is just strong enough and good enough that the customer base are going to support it.
The support has certainly been forthcoming when it comes to this popcorn. It was released within Toowoomba and surrounding rural areas at the beginning of the year and mostly stocked in IGAs. But it's also recently been picked up by the major supermarkets. That success means a lot to both the manufacturer and the growers who are making it possible.
And it's probably the most rewarding thing that a farmer can do is actually know where his products end up and ends up into Coles and Woolworths. You can see the product on the shelf and say, I probably grew that, or there's a chance that I did grow that.
Pop it up, self-erecting box, and straight into the microwave.
There are now plans to see if there's a broader market for this new take on Australian microwave popcorn.
One of the next steps will be looking at the New Zealand market, and we're exploring some other options globally.
That's it, moment of truth.
Mark Adamson believes the standard of farming in Australia is what sets us apart from so many other places, and also what makes it worth taking a big gamble on something new. In spite of costs, pests, global pandemics, and the many other hurdles faced along the way.
And we were really struggling. Setting up a manufacturing business like this, you can do it in Australia because you know that the farmers are really professional, and even if it's difficult, they've had a long history of finding a way to make it work.
Much like the push to get consumers more connected with farmers and the important work they're doing, Mr. Adamson believes there is much to be gained from also forging closer connections between farmers and food manufacturers.
There really should be a much closer relationship between what that manufacturer needs, and if the farmer understands that, then the outcome will most likely be better.
And those benefits aren't just for the business people either.
And it definitely makes farmers think a little bit more about what they're doing instead of just taking it to the local receivable depot and mixing your stuff with everyone else's stuff and not really knowing where it ends up. So It's quite exciting to go through that process. A lot of farmers get something out of that if they do get the opportunity to do it.